It was September 12th, 2001, and I didn't know what to do because I didn't have a car, and the subways were all shut down, and I couldn't get anywhere. And I was staying with my uncle in Brooklyn Heights, and he was in Italy, and I was all by myself. And I had just moved to New York about 5 weeks prior, and I had just graduated from college, and I was ready to, strike out on my own in Manhattan, and somehow I was able to talk my way into an awesome internship with a company called Nasty Little Man Public Relations, who was a music, someone knows them. So Nasty Little Man Public Relations is a music PR company, and they rep people like Beastie Boys and Radiohead and Jimmy Eat World, and I somehow convinced them to give me a shot. And they were located on 11 Maiden Lane, which was right across the street from the Twin Towers. And I was working there 3 days a week. And so September 11th was thankfully not one of those days that I was working. So I felt incredibly lucky, but I also didn't know what to do with myself. So I would just walk the streets of Brooklyn Heights, and I would pick up debris that blew over from the Trade Center, which was less than a mile from where I was living, right across the river. And I would pick up documents, and I knew they were from the Trade Center because they were charred all around the edges. And I made it to be like this exciting game, like it was, an ancient map to a treasure chest that no longer existed. I'm a very weird girl, sorry. So I studied the documents that I picked up, and one of them was like a contract for a new sea vessel from the American Bureau of Shipping, and one of them was a floor map of Pace University from the 55th floor of the first tower. And then the last one was an I-9 naturalization form from somebody who had applied for the position of server at Windows of the World. And I couldn't tell any names on the form, but there was a box in the middle of the page, and it was checked female. And so I just started thinking about, who this person was, and if she was just like me, and if she moved to New York to try to make it, and if she had died, or if she had lived. And I didn't think that she did, and I wondered if she would have thought that she had lived her life well. And so for the next 3 months, I applied for jobs, but nobody was hiring anywhere at all. And so a lot of days I would just sit in my room and eat bagels and lox from the deli on the corner, like a good Jewish girl, and drink an iced cappuccino and listen to Leonard Cohen for hours and hours on my CD player. Do you know how depressing it is to listen to Leonard Cohen over and over again on your CD player? Thank you. Things were not going so great. So I one day went into the city, and I took the NR train into Lower Manhattan, and I went to go to one of my favorite stores, Ricky's. Has anyone been to Ricky's? Okay, yay! The girl who listens to Leonard Cohen. We should hang out. So I went to Ricky's. So if you don't know Ricky's is it's kind of like a beauty shop on acid. You can get anything there, from like false eyelashes to nail polish remover to nipple coverings for when you need to cover your nipples. And they also have a lot of wigs, like tons of them. So I would just try them on because it was fun, and I just wanted to feel like anyone else but myself. I wanted to be anyone but me, anywhere else from where I was doing anything else than what I was doing. So I kind of walked down the wig row and I would put them on, and then I saw what I thought to be the greatest wig I had ever seen, and here it is. I've brought the wig for you. Yes, I did. All right. Excuse me. Okay. Okay, so if you're listening to the podcast, you have no idea what's happening right now. Okay, so this is I'm gonna try to explain what this wig is. It has a black headband, and then sewn into the headband is colorful dreadlocks in blonde, brown, and pink and purple. And I thought that it didn't look very realistic when it was down like this, but if I put it in a ponytail, like it looked a lot better, right? Right? It's like more realistic, right? Okay. Its shadow is real weird. Okay. So I put on this wig in Ricky's, and I looked in the mirror, and I felt like someone completely different. I was Ani DeFranco, or someone like her. I don't know, but it felt amazing. And so right then and there, I decided that I was going to wear this wig out in the world because it was the only thing that was bringing me any type of joy. So I decided to call myself Tabitha, and I went out as Tabitha like a few nights a week, and I felt like a total badass, like a woman who, you know, didn't care what anyone thought of her and didn't take any shit and was like creative and like unapologetically herself. And I felt like a lesbian too. Like a non-practicing lesbian. So I started to go out as Tabitha, and one night I went to a performance art show in Williamsburg, and I met a guy named Christopher. And Christopher was like a musician and an artist and an activist, and he was like mildly famous for antagonizing Giuliani. And he would ask me out for tea, and we went out for tea everywhere in Brooklyn that had like an outdoor garden in the back. And so one day we're sitting in the back of a garden drinking tea, and he says, "I've decided to be celibate for the next year." And, you know, I'm Tabitha, so I'm taking a drag of my Parliament Light, and I said, "Well, what's interesting about that?" Tabitha could be a real bitch, you guys. And he was like, "Nothing. I just, you know, I didn't want you to think that this tea was like some sort of foreplay." And I said, "Christopher, if I thought that this tea was foreplay, I would have ordered the chai." I didn't even know what that meant, you guys. It sounded provocative. I don't know. So Christopher knew that I was looking for work, and he can I take this off now? No? No, okay. All right. So he knew I was looking for work, and he offered me a gig for like $20 an hour to help him. He was planning a party, like an underground warehouse party, and he needed help with event planning and staffing and vendor management. And I accepted right away, and I was super excited to have a job. So for the next month, I was, working and talking to all these acrobats and magicians and sideshow freaks and all kinds of people. This was going to be a very, very interesting party. And I was working, and he was paying me very regularly, and it was great. And so a month later, it was March, and it was a Saturday night, and we're in Williamsburg, and I'm working the guest list, and I'm working the door, and, people are coming in, and there's drag queens and queens of hearts and all kinds of people. And I was so happy because I felt like I did it. I was somebody else, somewhere else, doing something else than what I had been doing. And it was 2 a.m., and the cops came. And they asked me for the permits. And I don't have the permits, but I said I could go get them from the person who had them. And I tried, but there were no permits. There were never any permits. So at 3 a.m., I'm in the back of a cop car with handcuffs, and me and Tabitha are being taken downtown to the police station. And we were charged with 2 misdemeanor counts of racketeering and public endangerment. So I had to call my uncle in Italy to have him come home early to bail me out of jail. And he did. And thank God, luckily, the charges were dropped, but it took me 10 years to pay him back the $15,000 that he laid out for me. And that fall, I got a job working in consumer affairs for a large cosmetics company, and it was boring, and it was steady, and it was exactly what I wanted, and I didn't regret it for a minute. And I still have all the documents that I collected from walking down the street, and they're in glass. And sometimes I think about the woman who was the server from Windows of the World, and I just thank her because in some small way she encouraged me to go create a story worth telling. Thank you very much. Have a great night.